Welcome to Birch Tree Studios, the home of 1013 Publications. This is 40 Below Zero, an international show about chronic illness hosted by two guys with MS. I'm your co-host Nick, and with me as always is Terry. We're so glad all of our warriors and supporters are here with us, so let's get into it. Good afternoon, Terry. How are you?
Man, I'm doing great today. How are you?
Pretty good, actually. I love the fall weather. I'm here for it. That's for sure. Who do we have with us in the studio today?
Awesome. Today we have Zachary Weeks. Zachary Weeks, what I know, he's a consultant, an advocate, and a speaker. This guy is in the community, all about raising awareness. I'm sure he has other motives as well. But Zachary, thank you for being here today. Really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure.
What's the direction that you're taking the consultant at? When I hear consultants, I'm thinking that people want to ask you questions. They want to inquire how you feel about certain.
It seems that way. But yeah, I mean, in terms of my role as a consultant, it really varies depending on what's being asked of me. So, just a little bit of a backstory. As you mentioned, I'm quite involved in the community. Had the pleasure of, working with some pretty awesome folks, some pretty big projects. And I was doing that in a volunteer capacity. Then one day I realized, well, geez, a lot of people are, coming to me and that sort of thing. That's wonderful, but maybe I should get paid for my time. So nonetheless, I started my own little shingle here, and that's mostly consulting on accessibility. As you could imagine, I'm a wheelchair user as a result of having cerebral palsy. But yeah, aside from, physical accessibility audits, I also dabble in, digital stuff and that sort of thing. I've had the great honor to be on a new show called Push here in Canada, CBC, hosted on CBC Gem. I'm not on the camera side. I'm behind the scenes. I got a face for radio. So
Dude,
I
congratulations, man. I had no idea that you were on. I met you through the group
Thank you.
chats, and I thought that was really cool, but I had no idea
Yes.
that you're on there. So congratulations. It's really cool. And I never introduced you, letting everyone know that you have cerebral palsy. So I apologize about
Yeah.
that. But of course,
That's a small detail.
awesome.
Small detail.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, so it's been really fun, working on the technical side of that show. And my role there is to make sure that, all the content that's put out on social is accessible. So making sure that there's captioning, video descriptions, alt text, image descriptions, because it's a show about, living, inclusively and pushing yourself. So it wouldn't make sense if, half of our content wasn't accessible, right? So practice what you preach, and that's why I'm such a huge advocate for the show and honored to be on it, because Bean, who's the sort of the lead star on that show, basically said, look, we'll do the show, we're gonna do the show, but it has to be the real deal. We're not hiding anything. We're gonna have full authenticity in front of the camera, behind the camera. So I was brought on as a disability consultant, and yeah, so we've been busy with that, and aside from that, I've been just doing accessibility audits here and there for different
Dude, you're all over the
organize.
place. You're
I'm
all over the
all over the
place.
place. Yeah,
And
my
I have
wife would agree.
and I have to say, you're the second individual we've had on that works in television in Canada, and my goodness, you guys are just so progressive up there with your representation.
Dude,
I,
have you seen any of the episodes season 1? I don't think they even broadcast in the States,
no, they don't.
but it's pretty good. And just so you know, Zachary, we facilitate groups, support groups in our community. And man, the show is just talked about.
Oh, we talk about it a
So
lot.
the
Yep.
fact that you're on the show, thank you so much. That's awesome. Welcome.
Yeah, no,
So,
I mean,
and when does season 2 come out?
so season 2 we just finished filming, so should be in January, give or take the new year. So something to kick off the new year, and yeah, we're hoping that we can keep the momentum going and see where it goes from there. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited to learn more about those groups that you're working on, and maybe I can get involved with that as well. See what I can offer, but certainly I'm not the end all be all when it comes to that stuff. So you're much more well versed in it than I would be, more than likely. So
Dude, we don't have cerebral palsy, but we can relate in the wheelchair aspect because I have MS
mhm.
and so does he, and the wheelchair aspect. But of course, we live different lives.
Yeah, but there's so much that overlaps, right? Like what I go through, you go through. I mean, certainly that's one of the things that I keep in mind when I'm consulting is I always make it very clear, like, look, I'm one voice, one individual with this certain experience. There's others that have a totally different experience, even though our disabilities may present similar challenges, we may have different experiences, right? So with MS, I know personally my aunt has it, and there's good days, there's bad days, and everything in between. And it seems to be one of those tricky ones that, it depends on the day in terms of what you get for,
Very true.
challenges, whatever. But it's also, I would, and you would be able to confirm this. It seems like it's getting easier to manage as long as you know what to, put in your body and that sort of thing. Would that be fair to say or no?
Yes, I don't know if you mean like nutrition wise or medication wise, but
Nutrition.
I believe in that. Yes, but there are a lot of people that you have to convince them, or everyone's in their
Hmm.
own paths. You know what I mean? But yes, I'm a big believer of that.
There's certainly a lot more information out there now, and there's more medications than there's ever been. So there's more opportunities to try what works. It's no longer like a handshake and a good luck, once you get diagnosed.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
um,
That's I think a story that all of us can relate to. I mean, we all seem like we're similar ages, and I know when I was born,
How old are
like
you?
I'm 35,
Okay, okay.
so
We're
um,
considerably younger than you. I'm just
really
joking.
okay.
No, I'm just joking, buddy. We're older than you. But when you told us someone that has MS, your aunt, was that what you said?
Yeah, yeah.
So when we say we have MS, someone says, "Oh, I know someone with MS." What about you? When you say you have cerebral palsy, does people say, "Oh, I know someone with cerebral palsy and he's doing fine"?
Yeah, yeah, it's it's that old cliche of of them want to being them trying to relate, right? I mean, I don't fault them on it, but it's like, oh, here comes the oh, I know someone with, right? And I say that a little bit facetiously, but um, in my situation, I do see it quite often, day in day out with my aunts. So and obviously through my advocacy here in Canada. So you guys are based in the States. Is that what I understand? No?
I'm from Ontario. I'm close to Toronto.
Okay.
So the Edmonton Oilers don't jive with me. And I'm just joking. But Nick is from Pittsburgh. Haha, just joking. I'm just joking. Here we
Yes.
have Philadelphia. That's just a joke.
I'm from Flyers country.
Oh, okay. The Broad Street Bullies.
I can take the Broad Street line.
I got the Pittsburgh. I mean, oh my God, bro.
Terry, show
No,
yourself out.
no. That was a joke. That was a mistake. Philadelphia. Okay, next.
Yeah, no, I so you're in Ontario.
Mhm.
You're a big Toronto Maple Leafs fan.
I'm not really a hockey guy. Don't.
Oh, what kind of Canadian are you?
I knew you were
That's
going
what
to
I've
say
been
that.
saying.
I'm a basketball Canadian guy.
Okay, all right.
You know, I
All
I
right.
do I do like hockey, but I'm not religiously into it. Like,
Fair fair
It's
enough.
okay. You only cut a corner off your Canadian card.
And then yeah, so your guy, well, I guess not your guy, but Matthews just had back-to-back Hatties, so everybody in Toronto and is feeling good. Oilers are losing 0-2 so far in the season, so
okay,
I'll just
That's
show myself up.
it's a long season, right?
Yeah.
we had someone on the show, by the way, from Calgary, Alberta. I don't remember exactly where,
Yep.
but just I don't know, useless information. But
Well, Calgary is a great city, but I'll maybe not cheer for the Flames if that's okay.
so I see a bunch of stuff that you're involved in, like a bunch of awareness events. There's one disability employment awareness uh,
Yeah, so
with Goodwill Industries. Yeah.
yeah, so October is actually Disability Employment Awareness Month. So I had the pleasure to team up with Goodwill here in Alberta, Goodwill, Alberta, and co-present with some other folks, Aaron Davis, who's big in the DEI space, and couple of the stars from Push to just chat about, our stories, challenges, myths, that sort of thing related to employment, hiring people with disabilities, because unfortunately it's lacking in terms of, people with disabilities being able to have well, a career really.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah,
that's a
that was
and that's another myth that we see from time to time where employers think, well, they have MS, so they can't possibly do, they can't possibly do this job. And that's not always the case. It's you have to actually just take the time and talk to the person.
yeah, absolutely. I think that's the biggest myth out there is this inherited ableism of, oh, just because you have a disability, you're not able to do a certain job. When in reality, if you do hire a person with a disability, I guarantee you they're gonna be the hardest worker in the room
Hmm.
because we
And
inherently have this chip on our shoulder to prove people wrong. Uh, Not to mention we're if you give us a chance, we're gonna be loyal.
oh yeah,
We're gonna work our ass off,
I
right?
agree,
Like,
man. Yeah.
that and there's the other horrible stigma that disability equals low IQ, which is not
Huh.
ever the case.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
no, absolutely not. And I mean, it's sad to say that we're in 2023 and we're still thinking that way. And I
Yeah.
think that's why shows like your
Push.
podcast and the work that we're doing, yeah, with Push and then the different awareness stuff that I'm involved in, hopefully moves the needle in a way that we stop thinking that way and think of people as they should be thought of and not as pity or less able or whatever, like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And just because I can't go to the second floor to use the bathroom doesn't mean that I don't have the ability to do the same job as the guy sitting next to me who can. It's a
Yeah, absolutely.
case by case basis.
Yeah, absolutely. um what do you guys do for work?
I am retired.
You're
Uh,
retired, okay.
mhm.
It
You,
it
you,
it took a lot for me to stop working too because of my pride. So I could still do
mhm,
a few things here and there with what I used to
right.
do, and I kept fighting it until I actually put my foot down, not literally, and said, "I'm done. I'm done." And it was a big hit on my ego, right? Because it was who I was and who,
Sure. Me too.
so
Yep.
yeah.
Same
Well,
story.
especially
Oh,
Nick, sorry, especially to you, man.
No, that's okay. But yeah, well, I'm retired disabled. So,
right.
however you want to phrase it, the
Of
same thing.
course.
Mhm.
Of
Z-
course.
Zach, you mentioned DEI. What is that? What is that acronym to?
So,
Disability.
no, diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Oh,
So it's a big movement, happening right now, in North America around, making sure that your workforce is diverse, that there's equity and opportunity, right? And obviously inclusion. The one thing that folks tend to forget about though is the A, which is accessibility.
Oh yeah.
Um, so like everybody's focused on, having a diverse culture, and that sort of thing, but really accessibility, I tend to think is probably the the foundation of all of those, really. I mean, if you want access to a diverse culture, you have to have access to the building.
That's
Uh,
very true.
for-
And speaking of a little bit of a side story here, Terry. I talked to my brother like 2 days ago, and he told me that in his travels for his work, he's now become on the hunt for accessible bathrooms everywhere he goes because of this show. And he messages me, "Hey, he was at a University of Pennsylvania facility. He's like, "Hey, I'm at a UPenn facility, and yo, they have a foot plate to open the bathroom door here." So next time he goes back, he's going to take a picture so that whether you roll on it or step on it, the door just automatically opens to the bathroom. And I thought that was pretty
yeah,
cool. But
that is cool.
we're making a
that's cool.
difference. Keep it going.
I
Yeah,
I
no,
no, go ahead, Zach.
no, go ahead, go
I
ahead.
have I'm interested to know, were you at the parking protest for the accessibility awareness? And
Oh yeah,
because I've heard all about that. They were doing a demonstration where they were going to block
Y-
with wheelchairs the parking lot,
Yeah,
parking spots.
yeah. So that was led by my good friend Brian McPherson, who is on Push and co-led by Bean. Essentially, what we did is we took up a government of Alberta parking lot for staff. We filled it with all our wheelchair vans and wheelchairs and took up all their stalls. And yeah, we had our signs out there and people were honking and stuff. There's a couple of people that I'm sure we pissed off, but they get a little bit of a dose of what we get on a
Damn right.
daily basis. People using, stalls that aren't theirs, and
Yeah.
I mean, it's we never want to incite like violence or anything like that. It's just awareness, right?
Sure.
Like,
Yes.
yeah. So it was a peaceful protest,
Of course.
but nonetheless, think we got the job done, and you may or may not see that on push.
Oh,
That's
that'd be
awesome.
really cool if it was.
Yeah.
But let's get real for a second. You go to a washroom and someone's in the accessible stall. And we can't judge anyone because you don't know what they're going through.
Yeah.
But sometimes you're like, hey man, there's 3 stalls here. Why would you take that one? Do you ever say anything to them when they walk out? Honestly, or do you just stare at them and give them that look?
Yeah, I think at my age, and like people know when they're like, oh shoot, like I'm caught. Like, so like, I mean, if they seem really like oblivious, I'll say something, but like the look does it 9 times out of 10, right? Like, but yeah, that's one of my biggest pet peeves. Like, you have to choose the wheelchair wash, right? Of all the washrooms, like there's 9 other ones here or whatever it is. And I get it, there's more room, but I don't get it.
Right.
I don't either, man. It's even me. I can park in the parking spot, like the handicap spot, but sometimes I even feel guilty because I'm like, I'm having a good day. I can wheel an extra, I don't need to.
Totally.
It's like people
Yeah,
don't think like that.
it's funny. It's funny you say that because I had the same situation. Like, I use a power chair, right? So like for me to drive across parking lot, it's no big deal for me strenuous wise. And actually it was my wife's that sort of got me thinking like this, like, hey, we can park further back. Like, you're in a power chair, leave it to someone in a manual chair or someone who can't walk far or whatever. But at the same time, I'm like, yeah, but I'm like lower down and people might, smoke me as I'm going in
Very true.
the parking lot, right? Especially now with everybody has a cell phone in their hand and
Yeah.
attention span of 3 seconds or whatever it is.
Yep.
But no, so I mean, it depends on the situation. If it's like an empty parking lot, then okay, let's park further back or whatever. But if it's like chock full, I tend to like, hey, no, I deserve this spot just like everybody else, but
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. I'm the same way. I have good days, bad days. I'm in a manual wheelchair, but it doesn't matter,
right.
really. It's
what kind of chair you got?
Should know, Terry, you're in it all the time.
T-Light.
Okay, Thailand, yeah.
T-Light. I mean a T-Light. So
Yeah.
it's yeah. It's
a tea light is a candle.
Whatever, buddy. A T-Light.
Podcast over.
You're right.
Get this guy out of here.
Yeah, I'm in a T-Light. And as soon as I was like full time in a chair, I started to try to make my chair look cool and stuff because I used to be a driver and I used to love my cars. And that was who I was. It was my outside image. And
your identity, right?
right? Like it took a lot for me to accept it. And so I
Yeah. So
flipped up my chair, whatever that means.
yeah, totally. So, and I mean, there's so many more options nowadays than there was like even 10 years ago, right? Like
Yeah.
to portray your personality. I remember my first chair I had. There were two types of power chairs that you could get back in the day, and that was Barbie or Hot Wheels,
Okay.
Really?
right? Yeah. So I got my first chair was a Everest and Jennings Hot Wheels. Uh, so yeah, it was bright red and had the traditional like Hot Wheels flames on it. I consider Barbie for a hot minute, but uh,
So I'm guessing you saw the movie 2 or 3 times.
you know what I started watching the movie, but I just couldn't get into it. Like
Yeah.
I've heard good things, like it has a good message or whatever. But honestly, I never got to that part. Like, but man, did they ever rake it in with
Oh
like
yeah.
marketing thing? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
oh
Yeah. You could tell. I went to see that the bomb movie. I can't remember the name now.
Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer. And when you went to the theater, it was the same day as Barbie, and you could just tell the difference.
yeah,
You know.
totally. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'll admit I went to Oppenheimer.
Okay.
I don't
Cool.
blame
Uh,
you.
Me too.
yeah, so yeah, it was a good flick. And now my wife and I we just finished Peaky Blinders. I don't know if you
Yes.
guys that.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a pretty dope show.
It is.
That's the same guy from Oppenheimer.
Yep.
So Tommy Shelby.
So good. So good.
That is awesome. Um, Something else I saw in the past, not actually, it's kind of recent. I like the name of it. I'm gonna say it anyway. Spastic Chatter. Do you remember that
Oh
episode
yeah,
that you're on?
yeah, totally. That was with Whitney. Um, yeah, she's doing great stuff with her podcast and
Hmm.
a lot of great
Spastic
guests.
Chatter.
Which, yeah, I love the name, right? Like,
Is that all about cerebral palsy?
I don't think it's like just aimed at CP, just like you guys are like open to having other guests with
Hmm.
different disabilities, but certainly has that CP homage being paid to it with the spasticity and that sort of thing. And yeah, I love the way she gets ahead of it before someone else can like bring it forward, right? Like she's very much calling herself out
Yeah.
before someone else.
There
Yeah,
there is a lot of power in doing that. Because if you own who you are and how you are, it takes
totally.
all the ammo away from any of your enemies that to use it against
Yeah,
you.
like what else you got, bro?
Right.
What else you
Exactly.
got?
Exactly.
Yeah. So 40 below zero.
Yeah.
How did that name come about? Speaking of podcast names.
It's okay. It's
The boss will answer that one.
Oh,
um 40 below zero is the point where Fahrenheit and Celsius converge. And since
right.
he's up there and I'm down here, I figured it would be like,
I
hey,
got it.
we're in common. It's
I,
just highlighting the
Right.
commonality of how crappy this all is.
I never understood, did you know that 40 degrees Fahrenheit is the same as, sorry, negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit is the same as negative 40 degrees Celsius? You know how you do conversion? That's the only time when
Yeah,
it's the exact same. So, and so
yeah,
with
that,
and when you
that's
have MS,
intriguing.
in the States, and Pakistan, and wherever you have MS, it's the same, right? Generally. So 40 below zero is the same anywhere in the world. That's where it came from. Didn't I explain
Nice.
that beautifully, Nick? I don't know. Okay.
Hey, I got it, and I'm not
Thanks, buddy.
the sharpest knife in the drawer. I'll
Yo,
be the
man,
first to say.
you are always welcome in my home as long as you bring me a coffee. But you're always welcome, man. If you're ever in Ontario, let me know.
I love coffee. What kind of coffee you?
One cream. I'll put the sweeteners myself, my Splenda.
Okay. What, like Tim's or what?
Dude, it doesn't matter, man. I'm joking with you. Yeah, Tim's. I'm a Timmy's drinker. I don't like Starbucks. Do you like Starbucks?
I like it, but here's the deal. Don't judge me quite yet.
Okay.
But I like Starbucks because they have this option where you can get it warm and not like piping hot. Like I'm a little bit of a sissy that way. Like,
No, man. I hear you.
but here's the thing. Like, I get it warm because I'll drink it and it like startles me and like I have a sensitive mouth. And I thought it was just me, but then I found out like a year ago that no, that's like a CP thing. Like
Mm.
we all have that sensitivity in our mouth. Some people react to it with cold over hot, but I guess I'm a hot guy, so
Yes, I understand, man. It's funny because I've had MS for maybe 13 years, and then I just realized, oh, that's affecting me because of my MS. And anyway, I don't want to be that guy that's like, this hurts. Oh, it's because of MS, and just use that
yeah, no.
as an
Right.
scapegoat. But sometimes it is, right?
And who knew that Starbucks, by having a warm option, was inclusive without even knowing it?
Totally.
So
And that's
just going to prove that a company doesn't have to do much of anything to include somebody. Now, granted, the
absolutely,
big stuff like the bathrooms and all that, the big,
yeah.
but something as small as that.
Yeah, no, it's funny how those accidental access hacks happen, like who would have thunk?
Now, when these companies reach out for consult, what do you find is the most common thing, like the bathroom, or what do you run into most?
In terms of like physical stuff
Or
or
whatever. Like when you go to do a consult, what do you often find yourself saying?
yeah, so when I do consults, there's two main things that are must-haves for me. And that's obviously uh an access, like you can actually get in the building, accessible door, and the washroom. Like I plan my whole life around which place has a good accessible wash. If I can't use the washroom, I'm not going there, man. Like
Yeah.
I played the game for half my life, holding my pee until my eyes turn yellow, and
Well, hold your pee. What is that? Sorry. Okay, that's my
yeah,
problem, I guess.
exactly. So, but I mean, like, yeah, so those are the two main things. You gotta have an accessible entrance and a washroom, or else I'm not going there.
I hear you.
Nor will a lot of other people. So, washrooms are very niche in itself, in terms of access design stuff. But the other thing I find really uh interesting is when these folks come to me, they're very they're lost, right? Like they don't know A from B or anything like that. So really, it's a little bit of finding out what they need or
Okay.
what they hope to achieve, and then meeting, in the middle. And you say, well, geez, that's really ignorant or whatever. But honestly, if you don't know, you don't know what you don't know, right? So,
Very
Mhm.
true.
uh, and I commend them because I mean, most people are quite vulnerable with it. Like, hey, I'm gonna be honest with you. We have no idea like what works, what doesn't,
Yeah.
and those are the people that I love working with because they're open minded, and they're curious, right? Like they don't they don't have this preconceived like here's what we need to do,
Right.
blah blah blah, and we only have this budget or whatever. But yeah, those are the two things that I sort of noticed right when I started consulting is well, and I guess the first thing, and we all know this here in the room, is there's a need for it,
Right.
a need for advising on different issues and inclusion and all that stuff. But yeah,
Yeah, very true. And even this day and age, not only not only do buildings need to be retrofitted to come up to where they should be, but even new construction, even the older standards, I don't want to say the old standard, but the older standards are not quite where they should have been. So you can even do better than what was.
Do you know there's a lot of
mhm,
buildings in Toronto that are grandfathered in? So they don't have
yeah,
to, yeah, you
Yeah,
know this obviously. So they don't have to build a handicap washroom, which kind of sucks.
yeah,
But so you got to do your research intensively and not think everything
yeah.
is accessible anywhere. You helped out Edmonton Oilers, right? You did this collaboration with them. Do you get
Yeah.
do you get tickets to go to the game? If not,
No, no
Oilers, what's
free
going
tickets.
on, man? Okay, hook them up.
Yeah,
Add me.
no, but yeah, I mean, honestly, that's gotta be the coolest project of my life.
Cool.
Um, you know, I mean, aside being a hockey fan, I'm a huge Oilers fan. But yeah, that
Me
was like
too.
a dream come true. And that was through the City of Edmonton's Accessibility Advisory Committee that I volunteer on. And yeah, it was just so fascinating seeing the behind the scenes of things and being part of talks that, you know, the public don't even think about, right? Like,
Yeah.
very true.
um, but yeah, like it was an interesting convergence of knowledge in the room. You have all these hockey like gurus coming in and architects and this and that, and then you sort of have like the broad street bullies, if you will, saying no, that's not gonna fly. This is great. That's not good.
Yeah.
And then we sort of you know, it wasn't a line brawl by any means, but it was an education on both sides in terms of what their constraints are, what our constraints were, and really how can we come together to build this world class facility? Because to your points, I mean Rexall Place or Northlands Coliseum was built like in the 70s or whatever, maybe 80s. And in that building, there was only 48 seats for people with disabilities. So
Wow.
there's four sections, two on each side of the rink. So the where the nets are, and then in there there was 12 seats in each corner, right? So that was one of the biggest things that I really pushed for is, look, we need way more seating. Like literally when we were playing at Rexhall, you either had to wait for someone to die to get season tickets. I know it sounds horrible,
No,
but
it's okay.
that it
No,
literally
yeah,
Okay.
it's just I
the
get it.
problem. Yeah, and or you were on a wait list for had to beg, borrow, or steal to get tickets. Nonetheless, now Rogers Place, you can get tickets anywhere in terms of price point, right? If
Hmm.
you want to sit lower bowl, you can. If you want to sit in the sports night club, which comes with like a meal and desserts and all that stuff, you can get that too. Like I said, look, like certainly there's a market for this, but at the same time, not everyone, believe it or not, there are different folks that are able to pay more or less depending on their budget.
Sure.
So you need to cater to all options, right? If you want or can only afford certain tickets in a certain section, there's that option. If you want to, splurge, you can sit here or there, right? Like,
Yeah, that's that's the hang up of sports venues is you can't get a good seat in a wheelchair. You have to be up high, you have to be off to the side. So
mm,
having the ability to be, right in the mix, that's huge.
right. So what is Philadelphia like in terms of
Uh
their
I have not been to the center yet in the wheelchair. So I
okay,
don't know for that venue specifically. I've only been to Citizens Bank Park to watch baseball games. Go Phils.
right,
And the seats are fantastic. They're they have all the tiers, all the levels, I should say. The top of each level has every section left to right is only handicap seating.
right,
So you can actually go with more than one person. A lot of places I've been to, um, it's usually like, oh, you can buy two handicap seats for you and then they call it an attendant, which is kind of demeaning,
yeah,
especially if it's your wife. But um, but at CB Park you can buy up to like 8 seats together, which is huge.
that- that's a game changer. Like that's
Exactly.
one of the things that we struggle with or struggled with, sorry, with Rogers. Like it's that, oh, you can buy, two seats or whatever. But what if I want to take my kids and my wife and or whoever you're going with, you can't
Right.
all sit together, right? Like then you feel bad if you buy all those seats because you're taking it away from other people with disabilities, right? Like,
Right. Yep.
but yeah, like baseball is fascinating to me because I had the opportunity to go to my first Twins game. So my wife, her side of the family is from Minnesota. And every year we go down and visit family in the summer. And this year we actually got the opportunity to go to a Twins game, and man, it's so different from hockey, but I loved it. Like the seats were perfect. Like we could all sit together, just like you said. Like
Yep.
I was like, man, this is what it feels like to be able-bodied for a moment. Like
I,
you're chilling with all your family and drinking beer and hot dogs and whatever, right?
I always say this is why sick people are angry people, always angry, irritated. I
Mm.
how's your your demeanor? How's your personality? Do you get irritated a lot?
Oh yeah, I mean, so when I was younger, I did not want to be disabled at all. Like I don't want to hang out with disabled people. I don't want to, be in the class with disabled people. I essentially saw myself as an able-bodied person in a wheelchair. That's kind of weird now that I said out loud, but
No, but back then,
yeah, that's society, the way you're raised or whatever. But then, you know, I was having this giant pity party on myself. I was like 18 or whatever, and then it just hit me like a ton of bricks that, okay, all these years I've been trying to fit in when I was born to stand out, maybe. Maybe I was born to be like this for a reason. As soon as I accepted on a whole other level, sorry, not to get all, religious or anything, but like as soon as I authentically accepted who I was and that things were not gonna change, this is it. Like then everything lined up. It was like a 180, like opportunities came my way, like so yeah, I certainly have my days of irritation and frustration.
sure.
I also deal with, anxiety and depression. Um, and so, yeah, and it's only been the last couple of years that I've really opened up about that because I need other folks to know. I think it's always been the elephant in the room. Like how can we not be anxious and disabled or not
Depressed.
uh depressed when we're having to continually fight for our rights and plan every movement of our day. Like, oh, what if there's not a wheelchair wash? What if I can't get in my van when I go for groceries and I come out all my groceries are with me? Right? Like that gives anyone.
What if my batteries die? What if
People assume
Yeah.
depression means that you are sleeping, you don't eat, but depression runs in different ways, right? Like sometimes you don't have the
Oh,
motivation to leave your home because the excitement is done. It's motivation is killed.
and I've been there. Like most people see the Zachary that's always joking, lighthearted, easygoing, cool, calm, collected. But you want to see the real Zachary. Some days are tough, and that's to anyone who's listening, like younger generations, whatever. That's normal. Don't feel bad about that. Don't think of yourself as less, despite all the bullshit that the world tells you, right? Like, if you didn't have that, I'd probably be a little bit more concerned for you, to be honest. Like, if you can live life not being depressed and anxious, power to you. But like, I don't know how someone cannot, right? Like, I hope not, but at the same time, it's normal, right? So,
So much respect for you, man.
very well said, sir.
thank you.
So where can people find you if they're looking for consult or any other just to chat?
Rogers Place, watching the Oilers. No, I'm kidding.
Nice.
Um,
Guy.
they can check out my website, zacharyweeks.ca. They can add me on socials, you know, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all the likely haunts. But yeah, I mean, the one thing that I really love about what you guys are doing is you're building this platform to also, in a way, you can connect people for mentorship, right? When I was growing up, there was no mentor, you know. So you're trying to figure out your life and what works, what doesn't. Can I really be XYZ when I grow up, or what have you? Um, so yeah, kudos to you guys for having this podcast and bringing up the various issues, your life experiences, the different organizations that you're working with, MS Canada here in Canada, and then I'm sure in the States, MS Society is there as well. So, you know, yeah, keep on rolling, bros.
You're
Thank you
awesome.
very much, sir.
Thank you. Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time to hang with us. Zachary Weeks, everybody. We'll have all your stuff linked down below the show. And we appreciate you hanging out with us.
Thank you.
Cool. We'll talk soon. So check us out at 40belowzero.com. That's 4 letter T below 0.com. Or feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. Our email address is info@40belowzero.com. Our personal Instagram account are, for Nix, it's Nix_V713. Or for Terry, it's What's_MS. Awesome. Looking forward to hearing from you guys. We'll talk soon.